Good evening, I'm Ken Worcestershire, and welcome to the Dirty Dozen Weekly Roundup. Tonight we'll take a look at each of the 6 games that were played this week. Our first matchup featured the ass drafter Michael, whose team was ridiculed and mocked mercilessly by many teams in the league. His opponent Victor thought he could sail through this week with ease, but as you can see here, Michael gave him quite a big tune-up. The running backs on both sides were all letdowns, with Bell going onto the IR until at least week 5 and Eckler not even able to put up 10 points. The win for Michael came off the backs of his stellar wideouts, with a combined score of 64 points between Adams and Ridley. Michael will be looking to continue his strong start against Nolan, the best team in the league by less than 2 points, in week 2, while Victor will attempt to save face in a game against Yasmin, the worst team of week 1. Our next matchup consists of Bruno, who has Saquon Barkley, Deshaun Watson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire on his team, and Dirk, who started 2 wide receivers that actually physically did not play in their games. As expected, Bruno absolutely decimated. Wait, Bruno lost? With those players? To a guy that didn't even have 2 players play? Wow. Well, I guess next week Dirk will somehow dick down the next team he plays, Ravi, while missing half his lineup and possibly slotting in CFL players. Bruno is going to have to shamefully pick up his pants from the spanking that Dirk gave him, and will have to avoid another embarrassment in his matchup against Warren. Speaking of Warren, we next come to his matchup against Ravi, where both teams had players pop off and give very strong performances. Unfortunately for Ravi, he played his lineup as essentially as perfectly as he could have, and he would have beaten 5 other teams in the league, but he drew up against Warren, who had great games from both Rodgers and Mostert, and consistent games from the rest of his players. Ravi will look to bounce back strongly against his next opponent Dirk, who may be a difficult matchup if he decides to play a full lineup, while Warren matches up against Bruno, whose team is run by a sissy girl. The game between Matthew and Harrison was due to be a showdown of the ages. Unfortunately, Matthew decided to bench star tight end O.J. Howard, leaving valuable touchdown points behind. His team was consistent, with 6 players all scoring within 3.5 points of each other. Unfortunately, this range was between 5.5 and 9 points. Harrison, led by the Dream Meme team Patrick Mahomes and Gardner Minshew II, thoroughly whooped the slow kid. He looks to continue his whoopery against Andrew's old age home team, while Matthew will attempt to save face by playing OJ in week 2 against Christian. Andrew and Christian played the closest match of the week, with Andrew just barely squeaking out the W behind a great game from Christian McCaffrey and just average games from everyone else, which is enough to win a game. Christian was extremely unlucky in that his star player Michael Thomas was injured early in the game, and he looks to be out for possibly a couple of weeks. Had he not been injured, he almost definitely would have won the game this week. Now he has to hope his backup wideouts can get it together for week 2 against Matthew, while Andrew has to hope Tiny Hand Goff and Grandpa Tom can get it together for his game against Harrison. And now we come to the matchup of the week, which featured both the highest and lowest scores of all the games. Nolan is scoring 138.54 points off of excellent efforts from Allen, Zeke, and Hopkins, had this to say to the rest of the league.
I just want to thank everyone for their constant well wishes and support over these long years of being terrible. The OJ ridicule has made me a top tier fantasy owner now.
This vicious beatdown of an inferior team was likely the buildup of past frustrations with the former teams, and now he is halfway to his win total from last year. Incredible. Let's take a moment now to interview the man with the lowest score of the week, Yasmin. Yaz, what can you do as a manager to improve from such an embarrassing showing this week?
Well, both teams played hard. We had a lot of turnovers, unfortunately, that the other team capitalized on. Our running back core did not show up the way we needed them to. I don't know what happened with James. I think his knees blew up. Nick struggled a little bit against that strong defensive line. Our wide receivers had a good showing, but we're going to need them to step up even more in the following weeks. You can never trust players on Miami, so that one is expected, but otherwise I'm hoping that we can have better ball security, better defense, better offense, score more points.
Thank you. Now, could you tell us about any adjustments you intend to make? Great, I hope those work out. And any words for the man who bested you, Nolan?
First off, fuck your bitch and the clique you claim.
Insightful as always. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Dirty Dozen Weekly Roundup for Week 1. Hearts were broken, champions were already made, seats were fully paid for, but only the edges used. Surely none of these takes will be inaccurate moving forward, and I look forward to reporting on Week 2. Thank you, and good night.